So Alyssa was kind enough to volunteer her event as an example for us to use. And let's get situated. So guest management is all about doing your seating, setting up your seating groups, assigning them to table numbers, assigning bid numbers for those who are doing auctions, running your reports to make sure that you have those paper copies at check-in just as a backup in case something happens with the computers. It's also nice to have the paper copies for those people who are like, oh, is so-and-so attending? You don't have to stop doing registration and go look up that person to see if they're attending. You can just hand them the paper copy and they can look it up themselves. And then we'll go on to printing name tags if you are with an event that does name tags. Not many of them do it anymore, but I'll show you how in case you are one of those. So first up is making sure you have enough tables. Doing your table settings is something that should have been done with your project settings at the very beginning of your event when you first set up your event. But just double check to make sure it was done, and if not, you can do that now. So under project tasks, you're going to go to project settings, and you're going to go to your tables tab. So you just want to scroll down through and make sure you have enough tables for your event. If you don't, then you can go into table setup and add some more. If you only need 1 or 2 more, then you can just click the add button. But if you need like 30 more, use the table setup to create all 30 at once and save yourself some time. In this screen is also if you have a table that you need to see extra people and you don't want it coming up on reports saying that the table's overbooked, you can change the number of seats at a table. So if you need to put 12 people at a table, you can hit edit and change that seat to 12. You can also name your tables if you want to. So if you know that table 1 is going to be your speaker's table, you can hit edit and change the name to speakers. And then do save and edit next and go on to your next one. So maybe table 2 is media, and table 3 is your top sponsor. So who's your top sponsor, Alyssa?
Cressa.
Cressa. Okay. So we'll name that table Cressa, and we'll see Cressa at table 3. Okay, so you can keep doing that. It's not required that you name your tables. It's just nice because on the reports you can choose to have a table name print so that you don't have to print a group name. If you say you're at table 1, which is the Cressa table, they know they're with their group. Okay. Creating groups and assigning people to those groups, there's a couple different ways you can do that. I can't show you the import online registrations because there aren't any to import right now, but you do have the option when you import registrations, there's a space where you can actually type in a group name. And they can actually name their own groups as they're purchasing the tickets. So there may already be a group name in there if they chose their own, which is nice because it just automatically moves them into that group. Or you can type it in, you know, whatever company they are or whatever group you want to assign them to. You can type it in there and it will just move them into that group. Another place you can do it is under project tasks in setup groups. If you know that you have, you know, A, B, and C sponsor already, and you know you're going to have a circle of red table, a Mengo red table, a speaker table, a media table, a volunteer table, and all of those, then you can add those groups right here. And then as you get those names, you can assign them to those groups. And you can see that some of these groups, if I highlight it, the Donaldson organization has Doug Donaldson and Jerry Miller assigned to that group. So wherever I assign that group as far as a table, if I give them table 5, then Doug and Jerry are automatically going to be seated at table 5. Everybody needs to be attached to a group in order to get get a table assignment. And sorry. And Allison typed in a question, is a group a table? Sort of, but not really. A group is who you assign to a table. So you're going to take an entire group, and I'm going to edit Airstream, and I'm going to assign them to a table and save it. You may have, because this one, table 10, seats 10 people, 2, 3, 4, 5. Airstream only bought 5 tickets. So I can combine Airstream and Caldwell and Walsh. I can put Caldwell and Walsh also at table 10. And now, between the two groups, I have a table of 10 seats. Does that make sense, Allison?
Yes, thank you.
So you can take all, Anderson, BW, CNC, where they've only got 2 people, 1 person, Corrigan, and you can combine all of those and assign them all to the same table so that you're filling a table. Okay, so if you want to add a group, just click Add, type in their name, and save it. You're not going to assign your base tables until probably the day, maybe 2 days before your event, just because we all know the last couple days before an event is absolutely insane. We're probably still getting guest lists. I was actually helping out an event with their seating where the day before their event, they had a $100,000 sponsor sign on the day before an event. Obviously, $100,000 gets you better seating in the room. We had to rearrange all of the tables to make, get them a front row seat. So you don't want to be assigning and reassigning all of your tables. Just wait till the last minute to do that. When you've got your full layout of your room, then go ahead and assign those tables. You may still have to tweak here and there, but at least you won't have to redo your entire seating list. As you're assigning your tables in here, so Cressa, I am going to put Cressa at the Cressa table and save that. And you could see that James is the only one assigned to this group right now. All the rest say unassigned attendee. It's because we don't have their full guest list yet. So at some point, Alyssa will get those other 9 names and add them into the guest list. When you assign your base tables in here, make sure that you're hitting this Assign Attendees to Tables button. If you do not hit that Assign Attendees to Tables button and you try and run a table report, oh, I'm about to get a message. Hold on a second. Okay, so where was I? If you try to print a table report without hitting that, you're going to see table 10, there's going to be no attendees. Table 3 for Cressa, there's going to be no attendees. Until you hit that button, those people aren't actually assigned that table number. And you can hit that button as many times as you want. Just make sure it's the last thing you hit before you go print all of your materials for check-in. Any questions so far? Okay. The third place you can add a group name is when you're actually putting in guest lists. So you can put in your guest list one of 2 ways. You can either go into View Edit Supporters, look up your sponsor, hit Manage Sales and Payments, and then edit the sale. Or you can just go straight into sales and edit your sales from here. So I'm going to hit edit. If you scroll down, you'll see the spaces to fill in all of your guest names. And you'll see up at the top, you can create a group name, and if you hit apply, it's going to assign everybody for this sponsor to the same group. And that's how we get that unassigned attendee label, is because all of these spaces have been assigned to the DNT Enterprises group. We just don't have any names in there yet. To put names in, you can look up the name. I don't know if Alyssa is in here, but I can type in the first name and hit find. Wrong Alyssa. So if I say, oops, wrong one, I want to clear that, and then I can create a new supporter. And I can create Alyssa. And when I hit save, it's automatically going to fill her name in there. Just know that you're going to have to reassign that group if you do any clearing. So there's Alyssa, there's DNT. We do that for the whole guest list and save. So now when we look at that DNT sale, over on the right hand side you can see they purchased 10 admissions, they've used 1. So we have 9 more spaces there. If we get a call from DNT and they say, we need to replace somebody, so-and-so is not coming, the easiest thing to do, you can go into that view edit the sale, and clear the selection. However, it keeps Alyssa marked as a bidder. So it can still kind of confuse your reports. The best place to get rid of somebody if they're not attending is to go to view edit supporters, look up the person that's not attending, edit them, go to their bidder tab, and hit the X next to their seating assignment or admissions allocated. And then uncheck is a bidder and save it. That way you don't have to do 2 steps. You don't have to clear it out of the guest list as well as unmark her as a bidder. You can do it all in one step. Questions? Okay. Once you have put all your guest lists in, done all your groups, assigned all your groups to tables, clicked your assign attendees to tables button, you're all ready to go for printing, you want to assign your bid numbers. And again, if you're not having an auction, you don't have to assign bid numbers. For this particular event, there is no auction, but all social events are required to have an auction. So any Go Red or Hardball event, you should be having an auction and assigning bidder numbers. Even if you're doing something like online bidding, where they're not going to be writing their bidder numbers down anywhere, you still need to assign them because that's how they get their unique URL to do the online bidding. So to assign your bid numbers, there's an advanced search that you'll use. So we're going to go to Show Our Advanced Search. We're going to go to Include Only Bidders. And we're going to put a 1 in the first box for admissions allocated. Okay, so it's 1, 2, blank. What that does is it pulls everybody who is actually assigned to a seat. Because keep in mind, in the system, anybody or any company that makes a purchase, doesn't matter what that purchase is, gets marked as a bidder. So if you just include only bidders and don't use this 1 admission allocated, it's going to pull every entity in your database that was marked as a bidder. So you're going to have companies, you're going to have people who aren't attending, you're going to have a whole bunch of extra bid numbers assigned that you don't need, and a whole bunch of extra names showing up in your check-in lists that aren't actually attending. So it's really important that you put that 1 in that first admissions allocated box. Okay, and then we're going to search, and you can see that it's now pulling 88 supporters in that dark blue bar. So these are all the people who have been assigned a seat to our event. Okay. From here, all you have to do is click Assign Clear Bid Numbers. So you can assign them or you can clear them out. I'm going to be assigning them, so I'm automatically generating. I'm going to tell it where to start, and then I'm going to say, yes, these are all bidders, and OK. So all of our bidder numbers have now been assigned. Easy as that. With this query still on your screen, you can start your printing. So we can go to Reports and Exports. And important one that you want is this BIDO1 bidder listing and check-in. We're going to run that on the grid selection. I'm going to send it to Adobe just so you guys can see it on my screen, but you're definitely, sorry, I can't talk. You're definitely going to want to send it to Excel. Okay. Make sure you're always choosing spreadsheet view. That way, all of their information comes out nice and neat in one line across the page. If you don't choose spreadsheet and you send it to Excel, one person's information is going to take up 2 or 3 lines, and it's a total pain to try to follow that across the page. So make sure you choose spreadsheet. For your advanced settings, you can choose the information you want to show on your check-in list. Try to keep it as simple as possible so it's easy to follow. For households, you can choose to show the household plus the members, just the members of the households, the household plus any extra members, meaning it will show the household as the primary and spouse, and then if you have children in the household as well, the household will be the primary and the spouse, and then the children will show in their own individual spaces. I like just members, but you can totally decide what you like best. You don't need to show the event name and date at the top of your report. You can if you want. The name format, I prefer last first, just so it's alphabetical by last name. Again, your preference. You can also choose to have them in separate columns so that you can manipulate the data once you get it out into Excel. If you are naming your tables, then you don't really need to show your groups. If you're not naming your tables, then you will want to show those groups. I'm going to show you what it looks like with both. I'm not going to show meals or credit cards. I'm not going to show a phone number, email, notes, check-in, and I'm going to put my bid number in front of the person's name so it separates it from the table number so you don't get them confused. I was actually at an event where a whole bunch of people ended up getting assigned their table number as their bidder number, so there were a whole bunch of people bidding with the same number, which is really confusing. So try to keep them separate on the page. Never do a new page for each bidder. You'll have like a 600-page report printing out. So next. This one always takes a minute. So this is what your check-in list will look like. We have our bid number, last name, first name, group name. This AA and AP column, once you get this out into Excel, just delete those columns. You don't need them. That means admissions allocated, which we ran our advanced search, so we know that those are all going to be ones. And then admissions purchased, we don't care if they bought their own ticket or if the company bought it for them. So you can delete those columns. And then it will have the table number and the table name. Let me scroll down to somebody who was actually assigned to a table. So here is James. His bid number is 165. He's with the Cressa New York group, assigned to table 3, which is the Cressa table. So if we got rid of the group names, so I'm just going to go previous. It will save your settings, so you can keep going previous if you want to change that around and change the way it looks. Like say I decide I want separate columns and I don't want to show my groups. This is what that report would look like. There's our bid number, our last name column, our first name column. Our group name is gone, but here's our table number and our table name. And in this, I totally forgot a section when we were going through guest lists. If somebody does not give you a complete guest list, such as Melrose Consultants here, what you can do is put their first name in as guest 1, guest 2, guest 3, and the last name as the company. And that way you have that placeholder, you know they're sending somebody, you just don't know their name. If they're not using those tickets, if they just say, you know, we bought 5 tickets, we're only going to use 2 of them, we're not going to use those last 3, then you don't have to assign a guest to those, so you can just leave them empty. Just make sure that if you are doing multiple seats like this with placeholders, that you are numbering them. You don't want to put them all in as guest Melrose, because when you change one to the person's name when they actually check in, it's going to change all of them to that person. So we need them to be unique. Any questions on that? Okay, so guest list. Obviously, when you do this in Excel, you can show your grid lines, so you can actually follow the line across and make it easier for yourself. If I click on Run Another Report, it brings me back. For those of you who are not using favorites, you can see my BIDO one is at the very top of my list because it's one of my favorites. You'll actually find it as the second one down in your supporter reports. I definitely recommend using the favorites, though. Just click that Add as Favorite and it will bump it to the top. Excuse me. For the name tags, you're going to use the BID09. This says bidder registration labels. You can do them as labels or name tags. Some of our events will print a label and stick it on the program so that it has their name, their bid number, and their table assignment, and then we pass them that program for them to walk around with, and they can use that bid number as their for live auctions. They can hold up that program with their bidder number on it in the live auction. So you'll use the same report whether you're actually making a name tag or a sticky label to put on a program. It's going to be that BID09. Okay, so we're going to run that on the grid selection because we already have our advanced search run. Again, I'm going to send it to Adobe. You would send it to actually you would send it to Adobe too for the labels. So you can choose the size of your label or name tag. So name tags, we usually use the 3x4s. For labels, we usually use the 2x4. If you get a bigger label, a sticky label, you can always use the name tag size and then just print it on the sticky label. Top margin, if you want to make sure that you have a logo at the top of your name tag, or you have the red swoosh or whatever, give it that margin so that you're not printing across the logo. Font styles, you can choose your font sizes. Bidder name will do 14. And bidder number, we want that to be big so that the auctioneer can see it. And we'll make it centered. And then advanced settings, you can choose who gets a name tag. For this one, you definitely want to choose just members. You don't want to print one name tag for multiple people to share. If you're doing this as labels for a program book, usually we use the household because couples generally share the program book. We're going to put the label bidder number on our bidder number so they know what that giant number is. Choose your name style. If you want to show their group, you can. Again, I'm not going to show it because I am going to show my table names. So there's my bidder table info. Oops, I'm going to say I want to show my name and number of my tables. And next. So here's the name, bidder number, and table information. Let me go find somebody who has a table. Did I just skip one? There he is. So here's James again. Here's his bidder number. He's at table 3, which is the Cressa table. If I don't like this giant bidder number, I can go previous, go back to my advanced settings and say, I don't want a label on that. But I do want to show my group, and I want to see how that looks. And say next. So again, you can play around with these until you get them looking the way you want. I might want to make my bidder number a lot bigger than just a 35 font. Okay, so here's James. He's at table 3. His group is Cressa, New York. Any questions about those labels? Okay. Since everybody's so quiet, I am going to have a little quiz time with you guys. So I have quiz questions. Just come off mute if you know the answer. What button do you need to push before printing any of your check-in materials?
Assign bidders to tables.
Close. Assign attendees to tables. But yes, in setup groups, assign attendees to tables. I can't stress that enough. Every year I get at least a half a dozen panicked phone calls of, I just ran my table report and there's nobody seated. It's because of not pressing that button. Okay, next one. What's the best way to delete a guest to keep from following extra steps? I'm going to call on somebody if nobody pipes up. Okay, Marie. Do you remember what it was?
I don't know.
Okay. So go to View Edit Supporters, look up the attendee's name, edit their bidder tab, and X out their seating assignment. So click the X and then uncheck a bidder and save it. Okay. Last question. What naming convention should you use if you don't have your company's full guest list?
Melissa, I'll answer.
Thank you.
You'll use the company name as the last name, and then guest 1, guest 2, guest 3 as the first name.
Perfect. Thank you, Casey. Okay. Any questions? I actually got done really early, so I'm going to be giving you guys a half hour back. And this recording is going to be posted in the Greater Giving folder on SharePoint. So if you need to listen to it again, it will be out there. And then also, in the Greater Giving folder on SharePoint is your Greater Giving manual. If you scroll down to Guest Management in the table of contents, just click on Guest Management. It will jump to the page and it walks you through everything I just went over step by step with pictures. Okay, so there's your entering your guest list, setting up your groups, deleting your guests, putting in placeholders, assigning your bid numbers, and then your registration reports. Okay, so everything I just did.
Melissa, would you share that link with us?
Sure. I am putting it in the chat box right now.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Alrighty. If anything comes up, you guys know you can always call me, IM me, email me. Otherwise, good luck with your events, and I'm pretty sure I will be seeing almost all of you soon at one point or another. So,
Thanks,
Thank
Melissa.
you, Melissa.
you're
Hey,
welcome.
Melissa, it's Alyssa. I just have a quick question